Welcome to Downtown Sports. My name is Downtown Stephen Brown, and in today's video, it feels kind of weird because I already shot this video, popped it into the editor, rendered it, watched it back, and I was like, no, you need to redo this. But in today's video, how does the June 2021 Seattle NHL expansion draft affect the Toronto Maple Leafs and their ability to make moves this offseason and next year? Does it affect them and their seemingly unending quest to acquire a right-handed shooting top four defenseman? Well, let's find out. But before we go over who the Maple Leafs would protect and leave exposed in this expansion draft and how it affects the subsequent moves that they're able to make, what are the rules for this expansion draft? And the rules for this expansion draft are the exact same one as the previous one that involved the Golden Knights. Teams will have the options to either protect 7 forwards, 3 defensemen, and 1 goalie, or a combination of the two totaling to 8 and 1 goaltender. So because this video is basically about the defense, let's just start there. And obviously, you're going to be protecting Morgan Rielly if you're the Toronto Maple Leafs. And did you guys see the picture of him on the first day of training camp back riding the exercise bike? The guy looks absolutely jacked. It's almost like he's been living with or dating an Olympian during quarantine in Tessa Virtue. And if you know Morgan Rielly, he really does like his sweets, and specifically sweet chili heat Doritos, and it looks like he hasn't seen one of those in a while. And obviously, next up, you just signed him to a contract extension, unless next year's absolutely catastrophic. They're protecting Jake Muzzin as well. And then you're kind of left with 2 names here out of the bunch in Travis Dermott and Justin Holl. And I guess I'll start with Travis Dermott. And you guys kind of know my opinion on Travis Dermott. I'm really not a fan of giving up on this player just yet. I really want to see him get a chance, an extended look to play the right side. He's done it at times at the NHL level. He's done it at the AHL level, and he's done it at the OHL level. And if he just shot right-handed, he would be part of this long-term core for a very long time. So I do have him on my team next year, but he's not a guaranteed lock to get protected. And Justin Holl, while I don't think that he's good enough to be playing a top pairing shutdown role with Jake Muzzin, I think that he would be better suited in a lesser role. I do think that he's a valuable number 5 or number 6 defenseman on any team in the league, and he does provide value there. And being one of the Maple Leafs' only natural right-handed shooting defenseman and having some kind of size to him and being on a very team-friendly deal, because I don't think that you'd be able to replace him and the minutes that he plays, especially because he eats up minutes on the penalty kill, and the Maple Leafs are already going to be needing to replace Cody Ceci there. No matter what you think of him, they still need to replace the minutes that he logged there, and that was the most of any defender on the team. So getting rid of the guy that played the second most amount of PK time, probably not the brightest idea. So I am a fan of Justin Holl, but again, he didn't really have the strongest second half of the season last year. He battled some injuries. He battled having the flu, whatever that was anyway. So while I am a fan of Justin Holl, if he doesn't perform adequately next season, it makes it an easier choice for you. But if he does, it would be nice. And then, of course, if you're looking for guys like Mikko Leighton and Rasmus Sandin and Timothy Liljegren, they're all going to be exempt from this draft. You don't have to worry about protecting them. So I think right now it kind of does look like we're going to be going the route that the Maple Leafs went the previous time with 7 forwards, 3 defensemen, and 1 goalie. Because if you look at their forwards here, you got to protect Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, and William Nylander. And then Alexander Kerfoot, a lot of people really want to see him traded, but I don't think so. I think that he deserves another shot. And if you guys want me to make a video explaining myself on that, just leave Kerfoot down in the comments section. I know I've said it before and I haven't gotten around to doing it yet, but if you guys want me to make that video, I will. Just comment Kerfoot down in the comments section. Andreas Johnsson, I think that he's played his last game as a Toronto Maple Leaf, so not going to protect him. Kasperi Kapanen and Zach Hyman. And I'm not going to comment on the goaltending situation right now because I think that that is a whole can of worms that we need to wait and see with what happens in these makeshift playoffs to really have a sound conversation about it. But we're left with one more defender spot here to protect, and I don't necessarily think that it's worth using on Travis Dermott and Justin Holl. I mean, you could, but in a world where the Maple Leafs need help on defense and where it makes sense for them to go out and get a defenseman via trade, and I did a video talking about trade options that the Maple Leafs can go out and look for, which I will link above the screen, and if it's not up there, it will be in the description of this video, so check that out. I think that a lot of the players that I discussed in that video, the Maple Leafs would kind of pass on, but there's a couple of names there that I think are a really good fit for this team, and it would be worth adding in here. So let's say they're using that third spot to protect this hypothetical defenseman that they don't have yet. That would leave Travis Dermott and Justin Holl exposed. But I don't necessarily want to lose either of those guys, so how do we get around that? Well, if you remember back to how the last expansion draft happened, the Vegas Golden Knights really took advantage of a lot of teams and made side deals with them, where teams were like, hey, we're leaving these guys exposed, but if we give you this, select this guy instead and leave them alone. And what's Justin Holl and Travis Dermott worth in a trade? A second and a third round pick, a second round pick, and a mid-level prospect? I would happily give that up to keep either of those guys. So the expansion draft should not affect the Maple Leafs in going out and potentially adding a named defenseman or someone that was mentioned in that video that I had linked above the screen previously or in the description. So now that we've gone over this, who are the players that the Maple Leafs going to leave exposed? Because if we're asking Seattle not to take Justin Holl or Travis Dermott, well, who are they going to take? So there are minimum exposure requirements, and each team is required to leave unprotected 2 forwards, 1 defenseman, and 1 goalie. And the catch is that all of these players have to be under contract in 2021, 2022, and played either 40 games in the last NHL season, so in the next season, 2021, or 70 games between the last two, so the 1920 season and the 2021 season. But because this season was cut short a little bit, you might see that 70 game number cut short just a little bit, maybe to like 60 or 65 or so. I mean, that would only make sense and be fair, but this is the NHL we're talking about. So in regards to the 2 forwards, and of the forwards that are unprotected right now, the names that I'm seeing that kind of make sense that would have an immediate impact on an NHL roster that are kind of on the bubble here are Pierre Engvall, who is already under contract for that 21-22 season, and Frederic Gauthier. Engvall just needing to play 22 games next season to be eligible to be one of those players that they leave exposed, and Freddie the GOAT only needing to play in 9 more games, but he would also need a contract extension, so expect him to stick around. And I would imagine that of those 3 guys, one of Travis Dermott or Justin Holl, and then Pierre Engvall and Freddie the GOAT, I think the Maple Leafs would slip the Seattle team like a second round pick or so to say, hey, you take Freddie the GOAT and we'll hang on to these other guys. So all in all, the Seattle expansion draft shouldn't really be a huge wrench in the Maple Leafs' plan. And I whipped up this really quick Armchair GM for you guys to show you that the 2021 season, like I've showed multiple times, it still is possible to upgrade this defense. There's a couple of different variations, and I will point you to a video that I made with a couple of different Armchair GMs and a couple of different hypothetical situations that I threw together there, and that will be linked above the screen or in the description of the video. So if you're looking to see a couple of variants of what could we do if this guy was traded or what could we do if we added this type of guy, that's the video for you, trust me. But this is what I realistically think that the Maple Leafs lineup could look like going into the 2021 season with about $3.2 million in cap space to still go in and make improvements on this decor. And like I've suggested in the past, you could go out there and sign a Radko Gudas, a Dylan DeMello, or even a Justin Braun, and you could make that short-term upgrade. You know, if the trade market's not really working for you and the asking prices are just too high or the right trade isn't there because you just don't want to force it, you could easily sign one of those guys that I previously mentioned in Gudas, DeMello, or Braun, and then flip a couple of picks to the Seattle team and let them take them. Because at the end of next season, those are still going to be serviceable, decent players. So it's not like Seattle's taking on a horrendous contract from you where you'd have to pay them the sun and the moon to take it from you. And if they needed to take it and they wanted a second or a third round pick or so, let's just say that you bought yourself a rental player for the entire season. Because acquiring one of those guys in and around the trade deadline would more than likely cost you about a second round pick or so. And there is more value in having them all season long to just opposed to the trade deadline and the playoffs. And it would be cool to have Rasmus Sandin on the team to start next season, but I don't think that it's too beneficial for his development to just have him playing 12 or 13 minutes sheltered on the third pair at only even strength, because I don't really think that there's much room for him on the power play, especially with Morgan Rielly and what Mikko Lehtonen is being billed as Finnish Bobby Orr coming over from the KHL. I think that they want to give him a shot there for at least the start of next season. And Rasmus Sandin doesn't really kill penalties either, and there is a need for the Maple Leafs to get another penalty-killing defenseman on there, so DeMello, Braun, or Gudas would really fit that bill. Or like I said, if you can find a trade that works for you and the other team, go ahead and make that trade. But come time for the 21-22 season, Rasmus Sandin and Timothy Liljegren better damn well be ready. And just one more video that I'm going to plug for you guys, because I did do a video about 2 weeks ago talking about the Maple Leafs' cap situation in each of the next 3 seasons or so, and just like Not a big deal or anything like that, but it is my most viewed video here on the channel. And if those two guys aren't ready, they're going to be in serious trouble 2 years from now when they need to re-sign Zach Hyman and find another goalie. And then in even bigger trouble the season after that when they need to worry about Morgan Riley's extension and Kasperi Kapanen's. So make sure to leave me a like on the video if you did like it and subscribe for more, because more is always on the way. And guys, hang in there. Hockey's almost back.